fuck you doing?
Remember that name, Good Pizza, with 3 Z's, baby, 3 Z's.
What's going on? It's your boy JP, Good Pizza. Yo, check this out. This week we got the East Coast in the building. The homie Ethan from Marijuantauk came through to share his story. Listen, guys, you're gonna love this story, man. A beast from the East Coast out there putting it down for NYC, Long Island. You already know what time it is, man. Marijuantauk, Good Pizza, let's go.
My sister ended up, so she has epilepsy. So, you know, I came home one day, I think it was like probably like a week later that week, and she was, my family was home, my mom was home, and she was bugging out like, oh, like, you know, your sister's having all these like weird seizures that she's never had before, and we're trying to figure it out, and they're calling doctors, they're freaking out, like,
holy shit.
And so it's kind of serious, and you know, there's not much I can do other than just like, okay, like, you know, this sucks, like whatever, let's see what happens, see what progresses, and then you know, so the whole thing happens. She like works through this, you know, weird like 6-hour window of like having these weird so-called seizures.
Yeah.
And, you know, she wasn't actually having seizures, but she was unable to really communicate and whatever else. And so like when you have epilepsy and you have seizures, often, you know, after you have a seizure, you get into what's called a postictal state. And It's like, you know, like you're kind of coming to, but you're not really all there yet. And it's very hard to communicate and kind of like articulate. So she was kind of, I guess, stuck in that kind of a state.
Yeah,
and so like, you know, 3 days later or whatever, she comes downstairs and she was like, you know, I had these cookies downstairs in my, you know, cause I rent the basement. So I have like a little basement apartment. So I have them, you know, downstairs in a Tupperware, and they weren't labeled weed cookies. I'm not going to sit here and say they were labeled, but like, you know, it's where I keep my food. You know what I mean? No one else normally is eating from there.
Yeah.
And so she was just like, oh, like I'm gonna help myself, I guess, and had some cookies because again, with whatever, with her epilepsy, she's supposed to be on a little bit stricter diet, and you know, obviously, so we keep our snacks and junk food downstairs, so she wasn't, you know, tempted to eat them and shit.
Yeah.
And so she went down there, I guess, and snuck a cookie, and so she comes to me and she goes, hey, like, you know, the cookies that you have out there. And I immediately look and I'm like, oh no, you just ate a cookie. And so I grab her. I'm like grabbing my sister, like, you got to throw it up. Like I'm getting ready to stick my hands down her throat. Like, I'm like, yo, you got to throw it. Like that cookie's strong. That cookie's serious.
Yeah.
Like you just ate it. And she's like, no, I didn't just eat one. And I was like, oh, thank God. And she's like, but Friday. And I'm like doing math in my head. Like I'm looking like Alan trying to figure out the days. And I'm like, that's the day that you had all those seizures. And she's like, yeah, well, and I'm like, she's like, oh, I had a cookie. And I'm like, you had a cookie? And I'm like, wait, so like, did you even have seizures or were you just high and didn't know? And so she was just high. Like she's never been high like that. And she was so high that she was like comatose, like couldn't like, so she was basically in this postictal state of like not being able to really articulate words and communicate.
Oh,
so
shit.
she's just thinking like, oh, I must have just had a seizure. My parents are thinking she must have just had a seizure. You know what I mean? They're calling doctors, switching neuromeds, all this shit. And so I'm like, and as soon as I hear that she ate the cookie, I'm like, oh shit, like that's fucking, like that was that. And I'm like, did you actually have any seizures, or is this just like we don't even know? And I was like, obviously, like, yo, you got to go tell mom, like you got to tell the doctors, because they're like talking about changing meds and like,
oh shit,
you know, like, you know. And so it ended up, and so that one batch of cookies fully got everybody in my family who doesn't normally get high,
bro.
Like it started with my mom, and then she made my dad eat them, and he was fucked up for a whole day. Like he was fucked up for a day, like just in bed, like not happy. And then, you know, like a couple days later, my sister got to him and they ate one unknowingly, and I felt so bad. Like I felt so bad. I was like, oh man, like I shouldn't have left them on label, this and that. And like, you know, like they were downstairs, like in my stuff, but like, yeah. So we don't really do too many homemade edibles anymore.
Those homebrews are crazy, bro.
That was butter by a friend.
Yeah, I was getting for a while. I was, you know, I've been doing my thing for a long time. And so a kid that I grew up with that I was, you know, always, you know, doing my thing, he's like a big Deadhead kid, and he used to go up to Massachusetts a bunch and like, you know, play in bands and all types of shit. And a buddy of his worked for Cabot Butter, like churning butter.
Oh, fire.
And also grew like some homegrown weed, like definitely, you know, some super, you know, hippie old school homegrown type shit.
Okay.
And he was so he used to every like month or so, the dude would just bring me a jar, like a mason jar of green butter. And some batches were like incredibly strong, and some batches where you could eat, you know, an indefinite amount and barely feel it. And this was the first time we were using a new batch, and apparently it was way stronger than the batch before. And you know, the cookies, I didn't think they were that strong. Like, I ate a bunch of the cookies. My wife had eaten a couple, and she, you know, and she fell asleep. So I was like, oh, you know, maybe these cookies are a little more serious than I thought. And like, let me tell my mom, you know, not to eat the whole cookie that I had left her. And when I told her, like, that's when she was like, oh,
Shit.
yeah. She was like, it's just a
Two
cookie.
shits.
Like, I'm just gonna eat it. And like, my mom doesn't usually drink. My mom definitely doesn't, you know, get down like that
Does
at
she
all.
smoke?
No. My mom doesn't smoke. Like, she'll eat like, you know, 0.2 milligrams of CBD and be like, I'm hallucinating. Like, yeah.
You said that like she gets down.
No, yo,
Oh,
she ain't normally like that. So I think she must have had like a couple of drinks for New Year's and was feeling herself. It was just like, yo, she's like, I could eat the whole cookie. Why can't I eat the whole cookie? Yo, she could not eat the whole cookie.
Nah,
and it was a problem. And then, like I said, she literally the next day made my dad eat the cookie to see if that's why she felt so crazy.
How did Pops make out?
Oh, he was not good. He was in the bed.
Not good.
He was in the bed. He was fucked up. And it's funny because like since then he's been a little bit better. And same thing with her. Like they'll have, you know, I mean, because this was years and years ago. Like this was before. I think this was before Marijuantauk existed. Like this was before brands. Like this is, you know, not high school shit, but like, you know,
a minute ago.
Yeah. This is a long time ago. Like, you know, and it's just crazy the way it all kind of played out. Now my dad the other day was asking me for like medicated seltzers, but he wants them to be like 5 milligrams. He's like worried about, you know, but you know, there was also another time after that he had eaten gummies. I had gotten a bunch of gummies and they were in the freezer, and he went and he was like, oh, I'm going to eat, you know, I don't know why he decided to eat these gummies, but he decided to eat these gummies. And my mom was like, yo, those are Ethan's gummies. You can't be eating those. And he's like, watch me, and ate the whole pack. Same thing. He got fucked up. He was in bed for like 12 hours, pissed off. Like, you know, and we're like, yo, like you did this to yourself, man. Like, you know, like I didn't.
You were warned both times.
Like,
Pops.
I did not dose you. Like, this is,
That's
you know,
crazy.
you know, but yeah. So we try to. Yeah.
So moral of the story, if you're ever at the homie's house, don't just go eating his shit. Ask him first.
Yeah. I mean,
the dosage. He will warn you accordingly.
Yeah. I mean, the gummies we did now, when we were in R&D, I used to tell people I'd have them at all the events. I'd be like, yo, they're like anywhere from 5 to 50 milligrams. I can't tell you the truth. Like, you know, I was thinking that we were trying to get them out 25. The ones we got now, we finally have dialed into being, you know, where we want potency wise, but it was a process to get there. And, you know, definitely eating a bunch of gummies, and you're like finding like, you'll eat a bunch. You're like, oh, these are all like 5. And then you eat one and you're like, oh shit, that was 50.
Oh boy.
You know?
How are you guys dosing them?
Just so like we would basically, we're trying to basically make like a big batch of concentrate, whether we're using coconut oil or another, you know, medium basically, and then we'll get that tested per weight, and then just kind of do the math. You know, don't get me wrong, there was definitely runs of doing this first without getting all of it tested to, you know, and just being like, oh, well, roughly it should be X amount of, you know, doing math and calculations, and it never works the way you expect it to. Like, you do the calculation and you're like, oh, this should be 25 milligrams, and you eat it and you're like, that was way stronger. And then the next time you do the same thing and you're like, this should be 25 milligrams or 50, and it's way less. And so I'm by no means a baker. I'm by no means a chef or a chemist. So, you know, honestly, we have, you know, we're a team. So like, we have one of our homies that you know, cooks the gummies for us.
Solid.
You know, he's the same one who fills the disposables for us. You know, he helps us with the post-processing of all of our hash and the rosin and everything. You know, we do all that washing with Santa. And then from there, you know, one of our buddies that is, you know, also helps, he runs a tent for us. He runs a couple of lights for hash that we'll grow. And he, you know, he helps us with the post-processing as far as the edibles go.
Nice.
You know, right now I think he's making some capsules for us. My girl likes the capsules. So
nice, bro.
Yeah.
Solid. So I didn't know you had gummies.
Yeah,
that's tight. You got some nice SKUs. You got flour, you got hash, you got gummies. That's what's up. Hash holes.
Absolutely. Here's some of the gummies right here.
Let me see. Oh, nice, bro.
Yeah. You can have that pack. So those ones are like legitimate. Like those ones are 25.
That was
like,
my next question.
Like those ones are not the testing ones. I probably have some testers.
Don't worry, I don't really typically take more than 2 of these bad boys just to assess.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I definitely have some of the testing ones where you could eat one and be like, oh, this wasn't so bad. Then eat the next one and be like, woof, that caught a hot one.
The
But
problem with these, bro, I'm always really high when I'm eating them because I'm really just eating them because I got the munchies. I'm like, man, that looks good.
yep.
And then like I'll forget and I'll kind of be smoking my next one and I'll be getting real wavy like, yo, what the fuck, bro? I'm like, oh shit, the edibles. Oh Jesus.
Yeah, I'll
And
be
then the
honest.
munchies kick in and I get really violent munchies when I'm on edibles, bro. I don't know what it is, man.
I mean,
Jesus.
the munchies, I'm terrible with the munchies. Like I'll go most of the day without eating, just, kind of work and smoke. And anytime where I'm like, I grew up doing construction. And so, I'm used to like getting kind of construction breaks where they're like, oh, like, it's quick, go eat lunch, whatever. And like, I'm like, go eat lunch. Fuck that. I'm gonna go smoke a blunt and come back to work. Like,
Right.
like I don't need to eat lunch. I'll eat lunch at 4 o'clock when we're done.
Yeah.
And, so I'm used to, kind of not eating. And then, so like by the time the end of the day comes, not only am I hot, super high and munchied out, but I haven't eaten most of the day. And so I'll go hard and it's definitely not good for my, for me, health wise. And I'll be eating like all types of shit. And
Yeah.
I end up with I have like a crazy chocolate addiction. I'm like a pregnant lady at night. If I don't have chocolate, I'll be bugging out. And like I've eaten edibles at night. Like just like I'll eat like not like crazy, but like I'll eat, I'll eat a pack of chocolate like edibles at night simply because I'm like, oh, I need chocolate.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then I'm like, oh, the next day wake up like so cotton mouthed out. You're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
With the wild hangover. Yeah, because man, you don't want to do it too late.
It's just
You don't want to do it too late. You get that residual next morning. Like fuck.
yeah, it's so hard to stay hydrated. That's the hardest thing.
That too.
Is to stay hydrated. Like even I drink a ton of water and even like just throughout the day smoking as much as we do and everything else is so hard to stay hydrated. And then when you start adding the edibles in, it's like you just
Dries you up.
Yeah, I feel like that
Definitely
episode of
dries you up.
SpongeBob where he's in that thing without. He's like, I don't need the water. I don't need that. I need it.
Yeah.
You can get a dried out sponge out of water. Fucking not good. But
That's what's up, man.
absolutely.
So when's the last time I seen you brought the Billies, right?
Yep.
Yeah. How'd you guys make out, bro?
We did
Your
pretty
kid
good.
was jumping.
Yeah. Honestly, so we, I was kind of focused on making sure that we did good this year at the Billies. Last year we did all right, but I think that we were a little bit more focused on just the whole 420 week, and there was so much kind of going on that we weren't able to really dial in the booth and have a a little bit of a marketing strategy and or like. Just we weren't as organized, and so this year I really wanted to make it a point to be more organized, to be a little bit more forward thinking, and get make sure that we were able to kind of take advantage of the position. Like last year we didn't even have a backdrop.
Gotcha.
We kind of were flying by the seat of our pants, which honestly, when especially in this business, that's a lot of it. You're being able to pivot and just come up with stuff on the go and so last year or the year before, I guess the first year we didn't do we didn't hit the we didn't do execute the way we wanted to, and so it was important to me coming into this year to like hit it hard and make sure that we had everything in place. And honestly, I couldn't be more proud of everyone that helped out, and everyone I've been more thankful, and we did really well. We sold out well before the end of the night.
Nice, bro.
I wish I would have had more flour to show,
I was sending mad people up there, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate it for
Yeah,
sure.
no
I mean,
doubt.
we and we did a bunch of lead up marketing. I knew that the Lighthouse lemons, because we entered the Lighthouse lemons, we actually ended up with third place.
Nice, bro.
In sativa with it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely psyched on that. And so like we were super psyched on the strain. We ran it 70 days, so like we don't normally run stuff that long, but
No shit, it has to go the distance.
it
One of those?
honestly, like we had taken some a little earlier and it was fine, it was good, but it wasn't it looked like it could go longer, and it was a rare opportunity in the garden where we had the opportunity to take it longer.
Okay.
And so we did, and really thankful that we did, because it came out so much better. Like the stuff that we had pulled a little like around more of like a day like 65 type thing, where we normally would have pulled like 63. It was smoking, it was good, but it just didn't have the same power and complexity. I think that this coming out.
Yeah, how was it
like,
different? I was about to ask you.
The full 10 weeks, like it I don't want to say it muted the lemon, but it made it like a little bit more complex. Like it made it so that there was more to it than just like straight citrus. At least for me, like
Some gas.
Yeah, I'm not
gassy.
I'm not a big citrus fan, even when it is straight lemons, not like just tangy. I just, for some reason, I guess I'm citrused out from the years of smoking a lot of citrus. You know, I'd done a couple of years of with I was big on the Weed Without Limits and Lion Bolt Farms when they were doing the Go Yard, and I was smoking a bunch of that and a couple other different like tangy type crosses or whatever. And so at this point now, I'm like, I don't really want to fuck with citrus typically. And the lemons, I like, you know, the stuff we had taken early, I was like, oh, like people are gonna love this. It's not really for me, but whatever. But then when we took it, that batch that like we took a little later, I was like, damn, I'm fucking into this. Like, this is dope. This is way more complex. There's way more going on, and it's got more fuel to it. And so I was just really, you know, really psyched on that. So like the Lighthouse lemons, you know, going 70 days, like we're about to run it back, and you know,
is that the new mark? 70 days
for that. I think we'll probably run it 70 again. You know, nice. I mean, if you know, in some of our rooms, because you know, like I said, it's a team of us. You know, we have slightly different, you know, lighting fixtures that allow us to run far reds or deep reds, and you know, when we're doing that, we're able to do that little Emerson effect thing, and you know, kind of speed up production time a little bit. But honestly, where we grew it, we had the reds, so if we were to grow it in our spot that doesn't have them, I guess we'd be growing it for like a couple days longer. Okay. So yeah, I think we'll take it to 70 again. You know, unless there's some like if it, you know, if it looks done, it looks done. You know, everything's kind of like, as much as you know, we like to stay on a schedule. We're small batch, and we're can
afford to do it.
Yeah, and we smoke it ourselves. Like we smoke this weed ourselves. We're not on the tightest schedule. We're not. You know, a lot of us have other means of paying our bills, and this is a passion project. You know, like don't get me wrong, we obviously need to. It costs a ton of money to cultivate in New York. Like our electric is fucking insane. It's a lot like California.
Yeah, what's that about, bro? How's that situation?
It's not fun. It's not fun, you know.
What are you paying per kilowatt out there?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is. We pay more in delivery than we do per kilowatt hour, right? Okay. So, like, you know, it's just like anywhere else. Like, we gotta get raped on fees, and you know, it is what it is. Like, what can you really do? But
for sure,
you know, unfortunately, whatever. You know, it's really just square footage. Like the rent space coupled with that, it costs so much money to. You know, to have space and to do it, and then like, trimming, forget it. Trimming's a nightmare. You know, I am so envious of being able to call it like a good trim crew up. You know, people are doing 1.5, 2 pounds a day. Yeah. You know, and the quality is good. Like, don't get me wrong. I shout out the trimmers I have. I have a couple that are good. You know, LV, Cruzy. There's a couple other people that I'm probably gonna forget, and they're gonna get mad at me. My buddy Todd, Garden State Gas. But he's working for another company now full time, so he's not as available for trimming anymore. But yeah, I mean, we pay at least $200 a pound, but it ends up being like closer to $300 because we pay like $200 for the pound. You know, we provide lunch. Typically, you know, if they're there early, we're buying breakfast, then lunch, and then sometimes if we're there late, we're buying dinner. You know, weed to smoke. Like if you want to drink a beer, I'll go get you a beer. Like I don't care as long as you just please trim the weed well. And so like we end up basically getting to the point of like it ends up basically costing damn near $300 a unit, unless we're gonna do it, you know, unless we do it ourselves. And at that point, you know, what's your time worth? And you know, if you have other things, like anytime that I've trimmed a harvest myself, the garden has suffered, and or you know, clients aren't getting seen, or you know, we're behind on getting the packaging done, the design work hasn't been finished. You know, there's a lot that goes into, you know, more, you know, outside of the flower. It's mind-boggling. Until you do it yourself, you won't understand. But obviously, like, you know, you know what it is, like getting the packaging right, making sure that everything's spelled correctly, making sure that, you know, the jars come in and then they're clean and everything else. Cause you know, like jars come in from China and they're dirty, you know, like if you're not cleaning your jars before you're putting weed in them, you know,
shame on you. What's up guys? It's your boy JP Good Pizza. Just taking a quick second to shout out my sponsors over at Grove Bags. Listen, it's an exclusive proprietary bag and here's why we love them. Let's talk terpene preservation. This is the best environment for storing your cannabis. It keeps your cannabis at 58 to 62% humidity at all times. It's like your cannabis is living in San Diego year-round with the best weather. Terpene and flavor longevity. That's important. It inhibits microbial growth. No mold, Kujin. Let's talk light protection. UV rays and good pizza don't mix. It also increases shelf life. Guys, if you have your flower in a dispensary, please use Grove bags. We all know that stuff sits sometimes. This is gonna be your saving grace for flower that sits on that shelf longer than it should. Don't mess around with the pizza. Use promo code GOODPIZZA with TreeZ's. Tell them Good Pizza sent you. We'll see y'all back on the show.
Yeah, I mean, especially the hash. The hash jars is crazy.
Oh, really?
Yo,
man.
Santa's a nut job. He uses a microscope before and after.
Oh, no shit.
He packs every single jar.
Respect.
Every single jar he's getting put under the scope. And, I luckily, when there's jars that they might have a fiber or something in them, I'm like, yo, that's my jar. I'm gonna smoke that.
Right.
And it's a lot that goes into it but obviously, the flower, for us, we're a flower brand predominantly is number one, and making sure that quality doesn't suffer. So if I gotta pay someone $300 to trim so that I can make sure I'm checking runoff and mixing reses and
that's all right.
taking cuts, it is what it is. I mean, look,
you should be getting tickets for your shit anyway.
We're lucky enough that we're super small batch. We are able to get a high enough ticket that it makes sense, and we, for the most part, we sell out. So like.
Good.
I'm not sitting here tripping on the 300 on trimming, but when we did scale up to the commercial spot and we really kind of took a bigger, took on. I want to say I don't want to say we bit off more than we could chew, but we definitely took a bigger bite than we're used to taking.
No doubt.
There was definitely a learning curve. Definitely a learning curve. I got my ass kicked in a lot of ways, and truth be told, I lost a lot of money. But
dialing in a new spot, right? Yeah.
Ton of money, ton of time. Ultimately we ended up losing the spot and literally as we get to the point of the turning point of like, all right, cool, like the building is finally paying for itself. Like I'm not coming out of pocket and like, living like I'm broke to pay for the bills here.
Yeah.
We get like one more run and they're gonna sell the building. So.
Damn, bro. This is current.
Yeah,
right
this
now?
is current. So that's why I'm out here, right? Like I'm out here because that's why we could run that 70 days. We were like, well, we don't have anything chomping at the bit, right? Like, let's just keep it running, like fuck it. And
got you.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like we probably could have done it the 70 days either way. I mean, we probably would have, but like, there was really no rush at all, and it was as much as it was a big hit, it's kind of a big weight lifted off my chest. Like there was a ton of overhead, a ton of moving parts. It's, look, what we do, obviously, we're pre-licensed, as I like to say, or we're waiting the state to give me our approval type shit. And so, being in the commercial spot definitely is added a little bit more stress of, like I'm not, I don't like talking about it. I don't really even like thinking about it. And, luckily we're in a time where, things really aren't like that. But, anything over 99 plants is still a federal 5-year mandatory minimum. So, like
in New York,
I said federal.
In general.
So like, don't get me wrong. The feds don't really fuck around like that.
Yeah.
But, they can. And it's just like one of those things, like, the difference between running a couple tents in your house as like a hobby and, renting a commercial space and going all in and, setting up, 15, 30, 45, 50 lights, whatever it may be, the amount of plants you have, the amount of what you're doing, the way the operation looks, like there's no like, oh, this is a hobby that I got out of hand. Like there's no like justification, right? Like, there's people in New York who got in trouble, who got jammed up for various reasons, however they got found out or whatever. But and like they tried to like make it seem like these people were running sophisticated drug labs and this and that. And like I'm not saying that their setups weren't sophisticated and dope, but they were tense. You know what I mean? So like I can only imagine like, what the news would have to say about walking into a fucking warehouse that was there, literally existed solely to grow and like big water, big bunch of reses and just a lot of issues. So like, not having that stress and like, worrying about getting robbed constantly or whatever. I mean, we were in the city with it. Like, my warehouse, like I could walk out the door and be on a subway in, 30 seconds. I could walk down down to a subway station. Like it was, so to me, it was like super cool. Dude, I had partnered with on the spot, had been there for a long time and super OG, like been growing haze since Miami. Like,
damn.
Yeah. Super OG Cuban dude, good dude. He was growing a little more old school and, we came in and we completely redid the spot. We set it up and I was psyched. Like, honestly, it was super cool. I come from construction. Like, I come from doing contracting work. That's how, I don't want to say that's how I got into all this, but that's how I really got into the growing side of things more was I was, I don't want to delve too far off the story. We'll get to it later, but I was kind of doing construction and a buddy of mine who I was, riding BMX with at the time because that was, a big part of my life and, hopefully still is. But, he was hustling, he was doing his thing and he had just moved out here to kind of get involved in a couple grows and he flew me out to build a big light depth for him. And, that was the first time I spent real time like on a farm working with, not necessarily with the plants, but directly around the plants and in conjunction with them and kind of whatever else. So that, that kind of is what led me here is all through like BMX and then construction and everything else. And fuck, I'm high as shit already. And I don't even remember where I started with this.
No, you're good. No, this is great. Cause this is about the time where I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I love where you're at now. Now let's bring it back.
Okay.
And start from the beginning.
Yep.
Because, I'm starting to get the idea of, how you got involved and damn, that is a common story.
Yeah.
Construction to growing cannabis, that shit is so fucking common, more than not almost, right? So, man, where'd you grow up? Like, tell me about the beginning days, man.
Oh, yeah. So I'm from Long Island. I live in Nassau County. I live one town outside of Queens. I grew up, born and raised in a town called Great Neck, which is a very, very interesting place. If you're familiar at all with the Great Gatsby,
I am.
I live in West Egg. So where I grew up is considered to be West Egg. That's like where Gatsby was from, like the old money type of village. So where I grew up is a pretty affluent area. I grew up pretty fortunately. Both my parents worked for the government. Mom's was a teacher. She taught ESL, English as a second language, and my father was an attorney for the state of New York. So he worked doing like civil law and everything else. So so they worked their asses off, and we were definitely like house poor, like one car for the house. Didn't go on vacation for many years, but my parents were pretty adamant about trying to get us to move and to live in this neighborhood because they thought the schools would be good and. It'd be a good life for us. And, I'm super thankful for them. Honestly, it was a really, really dope way to grow up. Like,
fun upbringing?
Yeah. Like I can't, I could complain, but there's nothing to complain about really. Like, it was I was very fortunate in that way. It was a very, very cool place, could definitely get away with a lot. I grew up around a lot of spoiled kids. Like, I'm sure like people will say that I'm spoiled to some degree, but like I definitely grew up around, people whose first car was, 60, 70, 80,000, $100,000 vehicles.
Damn,
you know what I mean? Like, like the student lot looks better than the teacher lot at some of the schools.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Crazy shit.
Well, everybody knows there's money in Long Island, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Specifically where I'm from is like,
I don't know too much about the geography.
It's like the North Shore. It's definitely a little bit, more, about money and shit. But honestly, from a young age, I rode BMX, I rode bikes. A lot of the kids I rode bikes with were, not from the same economic status. And like, again, not that we really were. We were just kind of barely making it by living there.
No doubt.
So like just being able to live there, like we didn't, my parents didn't have extra money to like send us to, do all types of crazy shit.
All the rich kids stuff.
But like, so I rode bikes and my sister has epilepsy. Cool. So when she got sick, she was like, I think 13, so I was 10 roughly. And kind of around then, I was already kind of riding bikes, but, there was a lot of, a lot to do going to doctors and shit like that with my sister. So when everyone was kind of wrapped up with that, I was like, oh, fuck it. I'm just going to go ride bikes. Like, cause this is what I like doing. And
No doubt.
so I spent a lot of time in my youth just riding BMX, traveling to ride. And, I worked at a bike store growing up, as a kid. That's where I learned, how to like wrench on shit and whatever,
Okay.
be somewhat mechanical. And, so I kind of, so I got a job at a bike store when I was like 12 years old, and I was making by like the first 2 months of working there, I was getting paid $10 an hour, and back then, it was good money. Like for a 12-year-old to make $10 an hour,
that was good.
like, I was making, and I was working like 40 hours a week at least, like in the summertime.
Damn.
I was crushing it. So like I kind of had some money of my own. Like I didn't really need money from my parents. I didn't really need money for anything. I rode bikes. So like we lived super cheap. I would just, travel around riding bikes, or mostly riding street at the time. We go to the Brooklyn Banks. Like,
You was skating at the banks?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, me too, bro.
Absolutely, bro.
Me
Like,
too, man.
I was riding the banks.
That's ill, bro.
I've been riding the
What
banks.
Side? Big side? The
Oh
big
yeah,
bank
yeah,
side?
yeah, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, we've been riding the banks since before even that Manhattan skate park, the LES skate park opened up.
Hell
And,
yeah,
like,
bro. Bro, I was riding banks in like, I was like fucking 14, 15, 95, 96, 97, bro.
Okay, so yeah, so that's a little before my time. So I'm born.
Probably just 'cause I'm older.
Yeah, I'm born in '91.
that's
We
the
were
only
we were at the banks probably, like, I want to say. I don't know if I was ever at the banks really pre 9/11. I probably was.
Definitely pre 9/11 for me.
I was definitely there pre 9/11, probably with my pop, because he worked like down in that area, and so
Okay.
there was times where he would take us down there, and once I was riding the bike, like they were super supportive. They would if like he knew that was a thing. I'm sure he took me there, but
Would he just drop you off there and leave you there?
yeah, oh yeah,
Same.
yeah.
That would never happen now.
Yeah, oh no, like
But before cell phones, beepers and shit, like
Yeah.
there was no communication, bro.
oh yeah. I
And
mean,
I just knew to kind of be over here when the sun went down. So
Yeah.
I get a ride back to Jersey.
like we were. It's crazy. Like I think about it as an adult now. I can only imagine the stress I put my parents through, because
Yeah.
shortly after 9/11, because I was in 4th grade there. Like I remember, before middle school, like probably the summer of 5th grade, going into 6th grade, I got caught taking the train into the city
Oh shit.
without telling my parents and shit. Because like where I'm from, like you could take a 30-minute train direct into Manhattan.
Long Island Railroad, right?
Yep. And so I live right on the border of Great Neck and Little Neck, and Little Neck is in Queens. And so if you take a train from Queens, it's a city ticket, it's a different zone. And so the train was like, back then, I think it was like $2.
Yeah.
You get a train. I mean, it might have even been less. And it was like $2. We get a ticket. You get only one. And we'd all get in the train and try and pile into the bathroom, or fucking hide or run from the conductor.
Yeah,
So because
yeah.
you might have only had $4. So like you had $2 to get to the city and $2 to get home. But if you're like, if I could save this ticket and not get it taken on the way in, I have $2 for lunch.
Yeah,
you know what I
yo.
mean? And like,
Get a slice.
Either
know
a
what I mean?
slice, but the dumpling spot down by the banks was like a big thing. Like, we'd go over to the dumpling spot.
damn.
And
I didn't
for
know no
$1,
food
you
spots
get
down there,
4
bro.
big ass dumplings,
What?
and that shit was like that would hit. And
Fire.
as we kind of got older, we eventually we started bringing the extra 20 with us to buy a dub, buy a bag, and
Hell
get a
yeah,
Dutch
bro.
and whatever. And so like I've been around weed for a long time. Just riding bikes like that. It's part of the culture, just like skate.
Yeah, of course,
It's
of
just
course.
how can, and then a lot of the people end up working in it just because how could you afford to live this lifestyle of basically kind of not really working, right? Like, because the best
Yeah.
times to ride or travel or skate, like you're not, there's no way you're holding a steady job. And and so a lot of my friends, that growing up, like whether they were older or whatever, this was what they did. So it was cool to, kind of grow up around it. And, it definitely like took, had like different stages of my life where I've, either been in it way heavier or, maybe backed off a little bit, but weed's always been there and been a part of it,
When's the first time you smoked?
First time I smoked weed was probably in 4th or 5th grade.
Okay, youngster.
Yeah, maybe it was that summer, fifth going into 6th. Like I remember it was with my buddy Steven, And
Oh shit.
yeah.
You gotta smoke a can or some shit?
No, honestly, we smoked a joint. We did smoke cans, like, you know, in that time, but we did smoke a joint. Steven rolled it. I don't think, like, I think now Steven works for Chase Bank, and I don't think he could roll anything. But
No doubt.
speaking of, actually, he's someone I had to call the ambulance on. He got too high, some edibles shit, and
Steven,
many years later, when he first started working for Chase, they moved him up to Boston. And yeah, I went up there with I had some, I think it was Starfire edibles at the time. She does those donuts, and those hash rosin donuts, and I was eating one, and he was like, "That looks delicious. Let me get a bite." And I was like, "Yo, be careful, they're kind of strong." He's like, "Bro, come on, I smoke weed longer than you, because he knows he's the first one I smoke with." And yeah,
Isn't it always the ones talking shit right before they eat it to get smacked, bro?
yeah, I mean, I
damn.
felt so bad. He was like making dinner. He was making dinner for us in his new apartment. He was all fucking gassed up, and he had this bite, and like, bro, he didn't even get to finish cooking dinner. He was fucked up, bro. And I'm not one, like, he was like, "Yo, like, you gotta call." It was a scene.
And they're like pleading with their life for you, like looking in your eyes, like, "No, for real," and you're like, "It's not happening."
You're like, "Yo, it's crazy," because like,
I'm not doing it.
You're not gonna be the first one to die. I promise. Like, you're not that special.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucked up. Like, because like I took a tolerance break. The last tolerance break I took, was a couple, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago now. And I did it really more to prove to myself that I could, I think, than anything else. And I hurt my neck like day one of this break. Like, I was doing pull-ups and like blew my neck out.
Damn.
And I started having like anxiety, like wild anxiety and shit. And so I haven't taken a tolerance break since. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like,
Yeah, don't do that. You'll freak out, man.
that's it. But when I came back to smoking weed, I'm a pretty logical person, and I took a dab before going to bed, and I remember thinking like, I know logically that there's no way, but I'm gonna be the first person to die from smoking weed. I'm gonna forget to breathe. Like,
When you have to manually breathe,
you're
manual breathing sucks.
when you switched, yeah, exactly. And I'm like, man, like,
put that back on autopilot, bro.
like, and I'm like, damn, like, I don't know, like, I think I'm gonna die, like, this, whatever. And then I like had come to terms with it at some point of like, all right, well, if I die, like, I'm a martyr for the cause. Like, I hope no one thinks that I died, on because of this, but fuck it. And obviously I didn't die. I'm still here. So
Congratulations.
I'm sure
You made it, kid.
Yeah, I'm sure we could take bigger dabs. No one's gonna die.
Yeah, dabbing off the tea break is a little risky, bud.
Yeah,
Well
I didn't think anything of it. I was like, it'll be all right. Like,
On a rig or on a Puffco?
on a rig.
Oh, bro.
And
son.
you know what it is? I'm not like, I have like baby lungs because I smoke blunts, I guess, but
Yeah.
I don't normally take, like, I don't normally get that fucking high from taking dabs, I guess, because
Right.
I normally can't I'll end up choking and fucking coughing my brains out, and I'll be high, but I'm not like super like, oh my God, fucked up. But then
Sure.
that dab, like, I had, it was like the perfect storm where I actually like got the whole dab, took the perfect dab. I was like, damn, I'm feeling like a champion. My lungs probably were just good because they didn't have any fucking blunt crust in them from a couple of days.
Yeah.
And yeah, I took this whole dab like as if I was like, one of these guys that takes fucking dabs all the time.
One of the cool guys at the sesh.
Yeah. Like I was some heady boy. And yeah, I mean, that dab humbled me real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Real fucking quick.
I'll get you.
Yeah. So I grew up in Long Island, riding bikes, and weed was kind of a scene, thing through there, and yeah, I smoked probably like, 5th grade, I'd say, 6th grade. And then from there, I smoked all the way up through most of high school. I ended up taking a break for a couple of years towards the end of high school and the first couple of years out of high school, actually, for no real reason other than I just felt like, honestly, I really have no idea. I don't know why, but I did. I'd gotten pretty serious into riding. I was trying to compete we had a couple sponsors, and I'd travel a bunch. Ooh, boy, that didn't sound so bad. It sounded like it might have hit the chair first.
Terrible, but all right, we're good.
All right, that's it.
I just dropped the tip for those that aren't watching YouTube.
Yo, that's That's a scary one.
Yeah, it's a scary one. It's a pizza tip too.
Oh, man.
Hurts.
You're like, no.
No.
I only threw one out the window. I'm not gonna front. I've thrown one out the window. Driving.
That hurts. That one hurts.
I drive a lot. I spend a lot of time in the car, and I smoke a lot in my car. And it only had to happen once for me to be like, yeah, I'm not smoking these in the car anymore. Like,
yeah, I don't know what's worse, when you throw it out or your man throws it out, and they kind of just.
oh my
like,
God.
You just.
You're like, dude, that was like
What the
50
fuck, bro?
bucks.
It's more than the fucking weed we smoked, bro.
Yo, what the fuck? Yeah. I mean, and then you can't even really be mad because like how
it's habitual.
But it's like, yeah, no, I only had to do it one time. You know, I know you know G. Fucking Gotti told me that he did the same thing. He's like, yeah, he's like, I had to make a rule. I'm not smoking these in the car anymore.
That's
and
funny
when he told me that,
fuck.
I was like, damn. That's got to be the rule. Like, I'm just not smoking these in the car no more.
Yeah.
And you know, so yeah, I know the pain of the.
It hurts, kid.
When you hear it hit the ground, you're like, fuck. Oh man, but
so after high school,
yep.
right? What was the first move?
Honestly, I went for a little bit to community college. Not very long. Like I didn't even like I was there for a semester, but I didn't really go for much more than that. And I was kind of just riding bikes, doing a lot of construction. Like I had worked in high school. I was on the robotics team, mainly because I needed math credit, and it was easier to you know, get math credit through running, you know, building a robot than it was going to some kind of algebra course. Okay. And
that was my next question. What is robotics team? But
yeah,
you build robots.
So I mean, so essentially, like there's I think it's called First is the name of the organization, and so they essentially every year they come out with a game that they do with the robots, where basically you build a robot to compete in this game, and then they have regionals and nationals, and you know every school you get like a 6-week build period, and then you know you can whatever. And obviously, like it's an expensive thing for the school. Like you know some schools have like $20,000 budgets to build these robots, right? Like it's definitely not cheap. There's some schools that have like crazy like NASA sponsorships, like Boeing, crazy shit. My school had just started the team a year before I was involved in it, and they did pretty well. And again, I had worked at the bike store for many years, so I was pretty handy. And you know, this town is pretty white collar, you know, just in general. Yeah. So being a little bit blue collar, you know, I stood out, and I was able to really kind of, you know, do my thing with the robot. And so the teacher, you know, it's like a tech teacher. One of the people who taught, he was in a local fire department in Long Island. It's all volunteer in the fire department, and his brother was also, you know, a volunteer in the fire department. His brother's actually ex-chief, and his brother would come and help us build the robot. And you know, it was kind of cool because we got school credit for doing what essentially was just like a project. Like it wasn't really like. You know, I didn't have to do math equations or anything like that. I mean, I did math equations, but more so just on like building this robot, right? Like we ended up doing really well. We won regionally. We went to nationals. I actually didn't go because as much as I went the 1 year, but I didn't go the second year. As much as like I was into the robot shit, and I was really, really, really dope. But you know, at the end of the day, I wasn't really into school and the whole, you know, organized trips and the whole thing. I'm not going to Atlanta with fucking the school. I'm good.
You're not going to Atlanta for the science trip.
Yeah. It's just, you know, so like I had done this robotic shit and done pretty well. And the teacher's brother, who was, you know, the chief of the fire department, you know, he was there and he helped out a lot. Like he did construction. He worked doing construction himself. And so he was super big on, you know, he's a handy guy, right? And so he was super into the way that I was able to like, you know, work. And I kind of told him like, hey, you know, I'm looking for work. If you ever have any, you know, any side jobs you need help on, because he worked for the full time for the fire department at the time. And, you know, everything was, you know, a side job, right? Like all like the work, like any work that we did was considered a side job. Yeah. You know, obviously, basically, you know, we're not licensed or whatever, but you know, just, you know, we ended up like, so he ended up hiring me. We did some kitchens, bathrooms. I think the first thing I did with him was retile a bathroom. And you know, this is like at that point, that's my real first construction experience, like real construction. And I learned from this guy. He used to be a plumber, so he did a lot of like, old school sweating pipes, and he's a interesting fellow. And so I joined the fire department, because it just seemed like a good thing to do. And I got pretty into like doing the construction thing and doing these quote unquote side jobs. And I was busy. I was making good money, like, good money doing construction and learning a bunch, and then getting my own jobs and kind of getting to the point of being able to, farm out work. Like I was hiring other people to do work and stuff. We were making some good money, and I was riding my bike. Most days I was riding my bike every day, like I had gotten a couple random jobs. Like I worked for the town for a couple years. Actually not even, I worked for the town probably for like 9 months. They were supposed to put me on full time, and they kept trying to like do this bullshit with keeping me on seasonal, and I kind of just whatever, I left. But I actually got my CDL through them, so nice. it all worked out. It was for the better. And I just got, I did a lot of construction, and I rode a lot of bikes. And at some point, our trails, so I built dirt jumps, right? Like at some point I had transitioned from riding the street so much, like riding the banks,
you're doing ramps and shit,
and handrails and shit, to riding really like dirt jumps. Like I actually switched. The shop that I worked at was a mountain bike shop, specifically. Like they were real into mountain bikes, and so they let me borrow a bike and took me on these trails, and I was like, damn, this is pretty sick. Like this is fucking full suspension mountain bikes. Like we're running around, we're jumping, big drops and everything else. And so I kind of got into the mountain biking thing for a bit, and I got super fortunate and was lucky enough to do well enough riding the mountain bike that I was like, oh, I'm going to try getting like one of these dirt jump bikes, because it's like a mountain bike, but kind of like a BMX. It was like kind of like a hybrid. Yeah. And so I got one of those, and I went to like some local trails that we had, like that had been built in the area. Right. And, I started riding, and I was, I'd gotten pretty good pretty quick. And so I got real into like the building of the dirt jumps, and, being involved in that whole scene. And, cause it's definitely like a no dig, no ride, locals only kind of thing, especially, when I had first started, like, nowadays there's skate parks for kids to go to. When we were growing up, the Banks was the closest thing you'd get to a skate park. And, and even that, like, if you didn't know how the etiquette of like when you could take a lap or not, like, it wasn't really it wasn't the, whatever, you had to be there,
Yeah, bro.
And, with the trails, it's definitely like if you're not going to help build the jumps, because it's blood, sweat, and tears. Like we're literally out there, digging holes in the ground to find good dirt that is worth digging out of the ground, putting a wheelbarrow to push to fucking build a pile of dirt that we could shape. And then, eventually it's just a bunch of grown men arguing about piles of dirt in the woods. And you're like, what the fuck are we doing, bro? Like, and, but, in the beginning, you're like, like if you don't dig and you don't help build these stupid piles of dirt in the woods, like you can't come ride here. And, there's a lot of like,
politics.
Politics, and just really like work ethic, like reward, like, if you want to ride, like you got to dig. And so I did a lot of digging, and we had a set of trails that were world renowned. Like people would fly from New Zealand, from Germany.
Damn, really?
Yeah. We our trails, the Boondocks in Long Island.
It's called the Boondocks?
It was. The town plowed them eventually, right? So that's like all good things. They must come to an end. And so what happens is the town, like we're building illegally on, not stolen land, but like, not land that no one owns, right?
Ours, but nobody's using it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we clean up the land too, like, we take care of it, clean up all the garbage, make sure the dirt bikers stay out, make sure there's no junkies shooting up and whatever. But like, we built like world-class jumps. And so when when I started smoking weed again, was the day that they were like, we're going to plow your jumps. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to smoke some weed again. And we started, started smoking some weed. And it took them probably about a year to actually plow the jumps. And so there was this 1 year grace period where I was smoking, and I was smoking with a friend that I was riding with every day. And, but in the beginning, I was just smoking when we were on road trips. Cause I was like, oh, we're going to be on the road for fucking 8 hours. Like, why would I not get high? I'm sitting in this car. Like, what the fuck? And then it got to the point, and then like, I'm like, all right, well, we're driving home. Like, fuck it, I'm smoke too. Then eventually you're like, oh, I'm just smoking. And, so I just kept, I was smoking, and I was like, you know what, instead of going, cause I was buying weed, at the time, like I said, through riding bikes, a lot of my homies sold weed. A lot of my homies were, in the scene. actively and doing well. Like I was making good money for being, you know, in my friend group doing the construction thing, but these dudes were making the same or more money fucking selling weed, and they were at the fucking trails more than I was. So I was like, damn, I gotta do this, you know?
Okay, that's where I was wondering where this started.
Yeah, so honestly, it wasn't even like that. Like I still was doing construction, and I kind of like that, you know, that was what inspired it. But I was like, you know, I'm gonna run this like a business, and so I bought an ounce, and I was buying eighths out of my own ounce, you know, for fucking $50. Like I was selling them for, just trying to run it like a business.
Okay. How long did that last?
You know, honestly, for like a couple rounds of me buying an ounce for $300, I was
Very
buying
responsible,
ounces
sir.
for $300. You know, I was making, like I said, I was making good money doing construction. So like the money wasn't so much the issue. I was kind of just more curious at the time, like, could I make enough money to not do construction? And the only way I would know is to keep track of it like that. And so, you know, after a couple ounces, you end up buying a quarter pound, and now you're making real money. And then you're like,
the first QP.
Yeah.
Off to the races.
And then you're like, I'm not paying for the fucking, I don't need to pay, you know, I don't need to buy into my fucking eighths no more.
Yeah.
And, you know, eventually.
I sell weed, I smoke.
Yeah.
I smoke out the turkey.
And eventually it kind of got all the way up to, you know, whatever. And, you know, traveling around and, you know, going to Cali and, you know, like I said, I had done construction for a long time. And so a lot of my friends that through riding bikes, they were out in California for the winter trimming. They'd go out to trim because
no shit. Okay.
Yeah, because like you think, you know, it's cold in New York in the winter, so you know, to ride bikes, you're like, oh, I'll just go to, you know, California, trim weed, whatever. And so that exposed them to being out here, and then some of them would come back the next year with money to invest into the farm, and then eventually end up on their own farm, and that's how they would call me to be like, hey, can you come build this greenhouse, because we don't trust anyone here, or we don't know anyone.
Oh, damn.
And so I've gotten flown out, and in that, like, you know, I got to really you know, kind of build some cool shit down in Anza, and down in the you know, in the desert out there.
Yeah, high desert, yeah.
Yeah.
No shit. You were flying out here from New York doing that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Wow, what years was this?
I'd have to look at my phone. I forget. I looked the other.
That's crazy.
It was maybe like 2017.
Oh, no shit, okay.
So like maybe 2017,
So I
maybe
moved out here.
maybe a little before then. But we were definitely like, you know, he was blowing it out. Like you know, we put up like a 30 by 90 fully automated light dep setup, and built out a bunch of other trailers, like, you know, for veg, dry, this, that, the third. And
You guys did trailers? For the veg and shit like that?
Yeah, he had trailers, containers, like the whole shit, you know, and it was cool. Like, you know, that was like kind of my first real experience where I was like really up in it, you know what I mean? And doing it, I was out here for a little bit longer than I had normally had been out here. So I really started to see the industry a little bit more, and I was able to really work and like work through some shit, and luckily we made, you know, I was able to make some money. Back then the margins were better.
Way better.
Everyone wasn't willing to just do this to say they do it. You know,
Yeah, man.
like you know, back then there was a real risk to it, and
There wasn't a million brands.
back when we first started, there was no, like, or when I was really starting, there was no real brands.
There was still a pecking order. You couldn't plug hop.
Yeah, it's certainly
Before
not.
Instagram trapping era.
Yeah. There was
Shit was sweet.
There was a moral code too, to some degree. You know, like, you know, and everything seemed to work. You know, it's
Everything was
crazy.
working great in 2017, 18.
Yeah.
Fucking fine.
Yeah,
Should have stayed that way.
Yeah, I mean,
No goofy packaging, none of that shit, bro.
when did Prop 65 happen?
Prop 64 hit.
Or 64, excuse me.
Prop 64 was passed in 2018 and put into effect 2019. So when I was here, I had a Prop 215 delivery service. When I moved here in 2017 into 18, we got the notice 2018 from the DCC saying we had a year to phase out our collective and get licensed. So, and that was until January 19th, 2019 is when they shut that shit down. So, yeah, that was how that flowed. So I just went underground. I was like, okay, this is what I do anyway. So
Right.
I got a book of business. I got my customers, like, and I just kept it going from there.
That makes sense.
You know,
I mean, when I was first coming out here, it was all Prop 215, and I talk about those days with weed like with so much love. Like that was
so dope.
You know, going to the collectives. We were talking about it earlier. Like, yeah, I'd go to, you know, you go to the shop, and like almost any good shop. Like, don't get me wrong, there were still a ton of trap shops that were hella shady and like not the best product, but you go to like any real good reputable shop that people knew about, and like, yo, they'd have 25 plus different mason jars of crazy different weed that was all
Yeah.
fire, grown in different mediums, different ways, different techs, different shit, and like
Yep.
totally different terp profiles, different phenos. Like there wasn't even brands behind most of it. It was
No,
just
dude.
strains. It was
Straight
just
up.
strains. And like I remember the first brand I saw honestly was Mega Wellness. I was down in SD
No shit.
and I was getting like the Mega Wellness, the Mega Wellness OG, and there was like a cheese. I think there was like some cheese that they had done, and
Okay.
I forget. I think I was at like Point Loma Patient Care in San Diego, and they had so many different jars. Like we were going there like honestly every day, every other day, and buy an ounce or two of like 2 gram, like, you know, that was back with the pop tops, and they'd be,
Yep.
you know, with the fucking chopsticks and shit, deli style.
Deli style,
and
yeah.
and I'd get like 2 grams of, you know, a bunch of different things, like however many things I saw that I liked. I'd be like, yo, let me get 2 grams each, and then the next day I'd go back and buy like, all right, give me an ounce of this one, let me get a little bit of this, and like it was just so cool. Weed was so much more diverse, and you know,
There was so much different shit in there, bro. This is before like gelato puked all over everything.
yeah, this was exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, yeah, I mean,
that era was
yo,
fucking
like
nuts.
I got a blood orange tangy then. Like, yo, if I put out blood orange tangy right now, like, you know, it'd be so hard to sell.
yeah, you tripping?
But like I got this blood orange tangy that was the crazy at the time. It was the craziest weed I'd ever seen. Like it smelled like a blood orange. Like it didn't just smell like tangy. Like it smelled like blood orange to
That's
the
crazy.
point where like, you know, I would show people that didn't smoke weed that I, you know, and it'd be like, look at this, like, and they'd be like, what? That doesn't even smell like weed, you know? It was, and so that like really, that was like some of the first time that I saw some weed that I was like, whoa, this is so different. Like I've never seen anything like that really is like this. And that era, we you know, I just see so much different weed, and that you said it was right before the gelatos really kind of took over, and
Yep.
the whole market became a lot more of like a monkey see, monkey do kind of deal. And you know, I look fondly back at those years, and just glad that I got to experience at least a little bit of it. Because
Yeah, same, bro.
know,
Same.
they're a generation even before that had, you know, lived through Prop 215 for, you know, 99 plant era. Like that shit is
Yeah.
sick. You know, I'm super, you know, super thankful that everyone pushed for it the way they did. And, you know, I'm not happy, you know, not that I'm not happy the way everything turned out. Like, look, it's good for the patients that weed is legal. Like it's good that I can, in New York City, I could light a blunt anywhere. You know, that's dope.
You guys got it good out there, man, in
Yeah.
that regard.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, as far as being in the industry was definitely a little bit of a cooler, or it felt like a little bit more of a fun place to be before when things were still a little bit more illegal. You know,
Yeah, man. Well, you know, come on. Who don't like the gray area?
the crime is the secret ingredient. You know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you know,
right.
like a little bit of the crime is.
Little
know.
crime would be all right.
You know, and it's, you know, it wasn't like, you know, violent crime or anything like
Yeah.
that. It was very, you know, I mean, I'm sure there was, you know, of course, things, but like,
Yeah, there was for sure. It could get violent.
Yeah, you know, I mean-
there's a lot of money involved, bro. Like packs are expensive. Box plays can get violent.
absolutely,
You know?
absolutely. But, you know, at least like, you know, I don't know. There was
Any street transaction with over 100K can get violent.
yeah,
over
abso-
50K,
I mean,
over
anything,
20K.
anything, absolutely.
You know,
but
depends on
it just, you know,
who's robbing you.
nowadays they just fucking everyone's doing the fake money shit or
Yeah.
whatever. But like, yo, like you like you're gonna risk getting robbed over fucking making 25 cents on a pack. Like, get the fuck
Yeah,
out of here. It's not
right.
even worth it.
Right.
It's not even worth it. Like,
No.
I'm not taking a flight for fucking 25 cents. Oh shit,
Siri don't even know what to do with
Siri, fucking, that's it.
that.
But
We don't have an answer for that either, Siri.
no, yeah, make weed illegal again. But
Man,
you know,
that's a good shirt.
make weed illegal again.
Make weed illegal again. That's a
Yeah.
fucking good shirt, pal.
I'm sure I've seen it. People definitely have it. It's, you know, I don't know. I like I said, there's pros and cons to everything. So it's cool. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's cool that someone like, you know, if my pop does want to go get a 5 milligram THC seltzer, he could probably go to a store now and do that in New York, which is
Yeah.
cool, you know, but, I don't know. It's definitely interesting. It's changing, you know, it's changing. It's a changing marketplace. You got to change with it. You got to adapt.
You have to.
You know, that's anything in life. Everything is changing. You know, a friend of mine, you know, back when I did all this build work, I also did a lot of like building of ramps and you know, little, you know, we worked for Red Bull sometimes. We'd put up like,
Oh, shit.
yeah, we'd
That's tight.
put up like different things. You know, Gov Ball. I did a bunch of like work at Gov Ball.
What's that?
It's like a big music festival on like
Okay.
City Island and shit. So I
Nice.
put up like the Budweiser Pavilion.
tight.
You know, yeah, just
Tight.
just building stuff. And so the guy I was working for at the time, his whole thing was like change is the only thing constant. Like that's the only, he would always say that change is the only thing constant. And, you know, it's true. You know, change is the only thing that's going to be consistently happening. You know, things are going to change. And so you got to kind of, I guess, learn to change with it and everything. And, you know, I guess that's where the brand kind of came from. Like, you know, I was just moving loose bags and, you know, moving work. I had a retail, and I was just moving work. And I knew at some point, like I knew I wanted to grow. I just hadn't found a space to do it. And I didn't really know, you know, I didn't know how to even go about getting a space to do it in New York, you know, like after coming out here and like seeing Anza and then like the desert, I was like, oh, like there's no way you could do this like this in New York. Like how the fuck, you know? And then I met more people in, you know, in New England, specifically in like Massachusetts and Maine, Rhode Island, specifically Rhode Island and Massachusetts, that like took me in and showed me their grow setups. And I was like, oh, damn.
Okay.
This is dope. Like this is pretty sick. Like I could do this, you know, like, and then, you know, a couple of them were also contractors by trade. And so they would be like, bro, like this is this and this is that and Home Depot and blah, and blah. I'm like, oh shit.
So they
and
put
I'm
the
like,
pieces together for you.
Yeah, and I'm just looking around the room and I'm like, all right, like I think I could do this. And so it was just about finding the right space. And you know, eventually when we found the right space, you know, like I found a space. I partnered with my partner, Brian, who, you know, shout out Brian, fucking believed in me before I believed in me. And, you know, believed in whatever the fuck this is that we're doing. And, you know, gave us the space and, you know, helped us really, you know, build to where we're at. And, you know, he like, in the beginning, we didn't, you know, I wasn't even thinking about a brand. Like I was just like, oh, let's just grow. And then, you know, as we started growing, I was like, damn, we're going to have to figure out some kind of brand. Honestly, you know, I don't even like saying it because it's kind of, you know, I don't know. It's just weird. But like when we first started, I was just moving the best weed and turkeys to people. I was, you know, I used to sell a lot of people who sold a lot of lows their head smoke. Like I was,
okay, got you.
I was the guy who like would come get the best weed and then go sell it to everyone who wanted to smoke the best. And then I was getting good deals on the low packs by bringing the best weed around.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
so, you know, it all worked out that way. But, I remember the first time, you know, midway through our first run, I'm like, man, you know, we're not, you know, maybe it wasn't even midway through the first run, but it was something. And I was like, we're probably not going to come out with like the best weed first run. Like it like finally hit me, you know? And I was like, how the fuck am I going to sell all this? Like, I don't really move not the best weed. Like I sell the best weed. Like I don't really sell the best weed. Like I don't, you know, I was like, oh, perfect. I'll just do a brand like every other asshole, you know? And like, you know, and like at that time, like when in the beginning, I really thought about it like that. Like I'll just do a brand like every other jerk off. And, you know, as we were trying to figure out a brand and everything, I kind of like fell in love with that whole process and, you know, kind of really actually like the idea of like, oh, this is like a brand and we're local. And, you know, the reason that I wanted to grow locally, honestly, was that I was tired of getting, like, if I didn't come to Cali to buy my packs, like if I was going to have someone ship them for me, like, or whatever, it just never ended up working out the way I needed it to for like the quality and the freshness. Like, yo, you come out here and you go see a grow and you get some fresh weed and the trike heads are still super swollen.
Yep.
The fucking pack looks like it's glowing. It literally looks like, you know, it's glowing. And then, you know, you get it home and it loses that.
Fact seal that motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't seal it super tight,
Right,
you know, you put it in jars. You could do, you know, you could do the truck. You could do this. You could do that. I don't want to get into too many specifics.
Yeah, allegedly.
Everything's alleged.
Yeah.
You know, this is
So we've heard.
Yeah, I took a tab of acid and I hallucinated all of this.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, none of this actually, but you know, the truth is like,
hypothetically speaking,
yeah,
it just ain't the same.
So I wanted to get it, and I wanted people to see it because I felt like, you know, fresh weed also is a little bit more psychoactive. It definitely hits a little harder. It's definitely, you know, sometimes you have a little bit more of the plant smell in there, a little bit more of the plant flavor in there, especially if it's super, super fresh.
Yeah.
But smoking it and getting to connect with the plant, I feel like it's a little bit more of a connection, you know, directly. And I kind of wanted to be able to provide that for people because you tell people about it and they're like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, weed's not better in Cali. You're like, no, you don't understand. Like, the weed is just better. And it's not like the weed, like, I'll bring the weed back here. It's not going to be the same. Like, it's not the same. You got to get it when it's fresh and when it's like that. And so, a big part of growing, I was like, I really want to get to the point where I could provide that, right? And so our first run came out, and it probably wasn't the best weed. Shout out Jimmy the Green Giant. He hooked us up with some clones, and it wasn't his fault. The genetics were good, but they weren't great. They were good. But
What'd you run?
we ran a pure sour apple, and a Project 4516.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The project honestly looked pretty good. But I don't know if we just dried it wrong, flushed it. Who knows? Like, it's hard to say, but it was a little, definitely a little on the hay side.
Gotcha.
And the pure sour apple actually, true to strain, true to flavor, it was really good.
Nice.
It was our first run.
It's our first run, bro.
It wasn't, I was just happy to get to the point of like being able to have weed that I was like, I'll smoke this. Like, this is good. And, at the time we had figured out the name. We were drinking a ton of Montauk beers. Not myself so much, but my partner Brian and our buddy Rob, who really helped us out a ton with the construction and everything. Rob is another homie I know through BMX. Like, same thing. I know Brian through BMX, like through the trails, through Brian. I know these guys through the trails. Like, Brian and I have been building jumps together for probably about a decade, or at the time that we started, I guess about a decade. And, Brian's a fucking workhorse. Like, the dude will go to the trails and build jumps that he's never even going to ride. Just cause he'd rather, he wants to see everyone, kind of, whatever. He's about it. He's about putting in the work. He's a hard worker, and, he's the man, honestly. So, like, I never questioned working with Brian. I never questioned his work ethic. I knew from jump that he'd probably outwork me. So I was like, all right, like, no doubt, this is perfect. Like, let's get it. And my buddy Rob at the time, same thing. He is a workhorse animal from the trails, and we would hang out all the time. And so he was just kind of around, and he was like, oh, I might as well fucking, join the, like, kind of join up with y'all. And,
join the squad,
and like, there was no, real, at that time, there was no plan. There was no talk of like, oh, you're going to get X amount of dollars, or you're going to get this, or, it was just kind of like, hey, let's just see what happens. Right. And, we all kind of had a vision, and we kind of went for it. And my buddy Rob also, though, he likes to drink beers, and so does Brian. And, Montauk Brewing is a beer company out of Long Island. They both happen to like Montauk beers. I also, if I am going to drink a beer, I think the Montauk beers are pretty good.
Okay.
And so they were drinking a ton of Montauk beers. We were trying to come up with a name. For me, I live in like Queens, basically in Queens. I don't live in Queens, but I live damn close. And where this is South Shore, Suffolk County. I don't know if you're familiar at all with Long Island, but it's a Long Island.
No, it is. It for sure is.
Like, it's not very, very, very
I've
wide.
avoid that place at all costs.
But it's super long, yeah. And traffic is a nightmare. And
Yes,
so
sir.
driving, from...
And you have to go through the fucking city to get there.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I'm already...
Or through fucking Staten Island and go down.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Bro.
I'm already, basically... I'm on Long Island either way, so it's not really that hard for me. But so where I basically went from... where I was living to Brian's was South Shore, Suffolk every day. And, like, it'd take like an hour and change every day, maybe a little bit more. And I used to joke with him, like, oh, you live in fucking Montauk, dude. This is like Montauk. Because, anywhere you live in Long Island, to drive to Montauk, 2.5 hours, 2 hours. Like, I don't care if you live 2 hours.
Is that the tip?
That's the tip. That's the tip.
Gotcha.
Like, Montauk's the tip. It's like a weird place. It's dope in a lot of ways, like super, super sick, rich history. The government did a bunch of fucking shitty experiments on kids there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Like, but
There's some dark history.
there's some dark history in Montauk for sure, but there's also like a really cool beach summer town. Like,
Okay.
So it's got like a weird kind of vibe to it.
For sure.
Obviously, like this show Stranger Things you've heard of.
Yes.
So that originally was supposed to be called the Montauk Project.
Oh, that was in Montauk? Stranger Things?
That's supposed to be called the Montauk Project,
Really?
I guess. And because, like a lot, there's like Camp Hero, and like a lot of the experiments done, the acid tests and shit, they were supposedly done on like, homeless kids and shit like that. That was all like Montauk shit.
Whoa.
There's like abandoned tunnels down there. There's that radio tower and shit.
What?
Yeah. It's pretty sick. Montauk is a fucking really cool, like, it's a really, it's got a lot of rich history. You know what I mean? And there's
I
a
got
lot of
Amityville too.
yeah. Oh yeah, Amityville's
I got
fucking
some
dope.
crazy shit on the island, bro.
But like, yo, think about it like this: Amityville from my house is 45 minutes away, 30 minutes away.
yeah,
Amityville to Montauk, and mind you, it's southeast of me. Amityville is southeast of me. Montauk is southeast of me, but very east. To get to Amityville is like 30, 45 minutes. To get from Amityville to Montauk is 2.5 hours. To get from my house to Montauk is 2.5 hours.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a fucking
there's no
vortex.
shortcuts,
There's no
cheat
shortcut.
codes.
You could live way out. My partner
you could be in
Brian's-
Montauk. It's 22.5 hours.
yeah, it might just take you to, yo, it's fucking crazy, dude. Like, and so,
That's crazy.
so going to my partner's house every day, I was just like, yo, like, this is like going to fucking Montauk. And so, just trying to come up with a name. We didn't, at the time we were still, things were still a little bit more shady. So we weren't trying to like say anything in reference to the town we were in, anything like that. And we wanted to represent Long Island. We wanted to really like rep Long Island. And we felt the best way to do that was to, somehow incorporate Montauk and, Marijuantauk is the name that stuck. Honestly, I there's days I'm like, man, I fucking hate this name. It's a mouthful. It's hard for me to spell it. I'm fucking dyslexic. It's not easy, it's, it has marijuana in the name, which I think is not always the best, for,
weed forward's risky.
yeah. And so, but it is what it is. And it's worked out so far. And honestly, like, if you're from Long Island, you love it. Like the leaf that we do, those are all little silhouettes of Long Island. Most people don't realize that unless you're from Long Island, but that's like a if you know type thing. And I don't know. I'm super into like I like the name. I like it. And like I said in the beginning, it kind of started as like, oh, we're gonna need to move some like whatever packs. Now, like if there's like if it's a 92 out of 100, like I may not pass. Like I'm like, yeah, we'll trap that out. Like we'll take a L on that because it cost us the same amount of money to grow a bad pack as it does to grow a good one. And, if I got to compete with loose unbranded packs because we're not going to brand it, I'm losing money.
For sure.
Like it costs so much to cultivate in New York that like but
You guys can't miss.
we can't miss. Like, and or you have to have creative ways to be able to, like make up for the miss. If you're gonna miss, you have to figure something else out in a way. Like, look, like hypothetically speaking, if you trap your face off and still sell a bunch of loose bags, then you could afford to, take an L and say, hey, look, this one didn't come out up to snuff. We'll just sell it for the low, trap it out, and better luck next time. But every dollar the brand's ever made goes back into the brand. Like, this doesn't pay bills. This is a fucking labor of love. Like we lose money, or I don't want to say we lose money, but we put everything back in, right? So
doubt.
it's luckily, hypothetically, some people are still trapping their faces off and making the world go around.
Hey,
but it's
you do what you gotta do, man.
yeah, exactly. And it's, don't get me wrong, like there's been harvests that are good. There's been times where you're like, oh fuck yeah, like this is gonna work, and so you double it down and you invest into a commercial space and you're like, hell yeah, this is gonna be sick, and you lose the lease right as you're like getting to your turning point. But it's all good. I'm like, honestly,
Part of the game, bro.
I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for how much I've learned. It was such a fucking learning experience, dude. Like I walked into it confident, and I am so far from that confidence level now of, don't get me wrong. Like I'm confident. I'm still confident. I know what I know. And I know that I know very little. And I know I have so many fucking homies, so many resources to be able to reach out to. Like the connections I've made in the last, just from starting the brand till now, I've been, so good with so many people. I mean, don't get me wrong, you meet a lot of shitheads in this industry.
Of course.
But the good always seems to outweigh the bad. Even if it is outnumbered, significantly on the bad side, but the good is always worth it. And like I'm happy that we learned and we did the warehouse. I'm super, super happy and thankful for the opportunity that it was. And it gave me a different perspective on things too. Like, truth be told, I think that the big issue with the weed industry and with the industry in general is that a lot of us get a little gluttonous in the sense of like, we could grow more. Things are going good. We should do more. And, you know,
Risky.
it's not only just risky. I think it's, you know, it's disrespectful to the plant and not even to sound weird, but it's like almost disrespectful to each other. Like, if you are able to make a sustainable, happy living, growing X amount of product and selling it at a top tier price where your margins are good, your people are eating good, your employees are eating good, you're eating good, everything's good. You know,
good flavor rotation, not doing the same shit all the time.
Quality is at least at hitting a standard, right? Like, we're not, you know, look, no one's hitting home runs every time they get at bat. You know,
there's the best.
There's people who are really good, but you know, exactly. So it's like, but you know, once you start cultivating more than you know you're moving, that's when you're starting to lower the ticket, and that's lowering the ticket overall for everyone. Rising tides rise all boats. Same with the falling tides.
Yeah.
And it, you know, people ask constantly, "Oh, weed used to be better back in the day." Well, weed used to cost more money, right?
Yeah.
Like we talk about this all the time. The cost of living has gone up, right? The cost of everything has gone up, from packaging to electricity to rent to fucking bottles of water to gasoline to nutrients to everything, right? Like literally, you can't name an item that hasn't eggs. You know, name something. You know, and the only thing that's gone down in price is weed. And it doesn't cost less to grow. It's just maybe a little less risky now. But the risk has transitioned from a risk of losing your freedom to a financial risk. Right now, the risk is like, to set up a big operation, it costs a lot of money, and the chances of you making it back are far less now. So it's you know, the risk is still there. It's just a different risk. And I think that overproduction and gluttony, like if we all, you know, obviously it's not possible at this point, and with legalization, you know, it's just part of the process. But like, I'd rather grow less weed and stay sold out and work less and go back and ride my bike at the trails like I originally wanted to, right? Like this is, you know, this all stemmed from me wanting to spend more time with my family and riding my bike and spend time doing the things that I want to do, and also smoke the best weed in the world, right? And so if we just go back to that, which is grow the best weed in the world, smoke the best weed in the world, and spend a bunch of time with loved ones and friends and have a good time, like I don't need to make, I don't necessarily need a commercial space. I could probably do that out of a house and make a sustainable living. And you know, am I going to be driving a Ferrari? No, but I'm going to have a much more enjoyable life. And I think that's kind of the route that we're going to head, you know, as far as with Marijuantauk. Don't get me wrong, we're still looking into licensing and legal deals and things like that. Cause I do see us, you know, progressing. You know, look, if we get a license, I think we could be a big force on the legal market. Between the connections that we have, the crew that we have, the dedication, and you know, the knowledge and everything else. Like I think, you know, we could be a big force, but I'm not right now. I'm not focusing. I was for a little bit trying to really focus on getting legal and blowing up and doing this whole thing. And honestly, like just the way the New York legal market has gone, it's like I'm kind of disgusted with it. I'm kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to grow the best weed I can grow, and at a scale that I know I'm gonna sell out of it, and I'm gonna have like, you know, I'm gonna enjoy weed. You know, I don't need to.
Yeah, good for you, man.
I don't need to. You know, there's a lot of opportunity out there to get rich, and you know, not that I think getting rich, you know, means something different to everyone, and you know, I want to make sure that I'm gonna get the rich that means good to me. You know what I mean? And so
I respect that.
You know,
that's good. You know that for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, the warehouse, like, it was a learning experience. You know, it definitely wasn't something that, like, you know, I came to terms with right away. And I was like, oh, this is going to be good. Like, it was just something that, you know, luckily has, you know, I've kind of figured out. And, you know, like I said, I just think that growing the best product that we can grow and putting it out and having, you know, people be able to smoke it and enjoy it is so key and such a big part of it. Like, for me to be able to say, like, this is my job, like I sit here and smoke weed, I fucking grow weed. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a ton of times where, like, yeah, I fucking clean up, I'm sweeping, you know, mopping floors, I'm dealing with floods, I'm fucking changing out a solenoid, I'm driving 4 hours to go change a solenoid, you know, like, shit, you know, it happens, it sucks. There's parts of this job that suck, no doubt, but at the end of the day, I smoke weed for a living. Like,
goddamn right.
You know, like, it's fucking dope. And so if I can smoke weed for a living and make enough to pay my bills and, you know, maybe I don't get to drive a fucking brand new Mercedes, but I could, you know, drive a nicer car that's not like, you know, breaking down on the side of the road, then I'm good. Like, I don't know. New York's expensive to live, so
Yes, it is, my
you
friend.
know, just being able to afford to live there is good.
Yes, it is.
Yo.
On that note, we're gonna take a quick break.
Yeah.
So I got to give you your flowers on Marijuantauk, bro. It's so fitting, and I knew exactly what it was when I heard it.
Hell yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was
Yeah.
like, it was New York. It was specifically Long Island. I knew Montauk was from Long Island. Like, it was just, man, it hit nice. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I know you said you weren't super crazy about it. From the outside looking in, it was dope, bro.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, honestly,
Yeah.
like, and so many people have said, like, I've had conflicting things. Like, every once in a while, someone will be like, "Oh, the name's a mouthful," or someone won't be able to say it right. But like the people who like say what you said, like that means everything. Because like we're like, all right, cool, like it's worth it. Like it's doing its job. Like
Yeah.
you know, all the things that I don't like about it are you know worth eating for what it actually
No doubt.
says. You know,
No doubt.
and
Yeah,
so
man.
I'm
Made
hyped that it worked
sense.
out. You know,
It made sense to me. And like, you know, I meet you through Gino. Gino has the nicest things to say about you. So I knew you were solid. And then I tried your products. Product was fire. And it's cool to see the growth and the progression and the network you growers have
yeah.
in New York. Like I'd say like the frontline growers that we're all pretty familiar with, even me being out here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you guys, the Collector, Sensei.
Yeah, Foo, Semper.
Semper.
There's Mechanic, obviously.
Mechanics, of course. Mechanics. He's been on the show. Shout out to the homie.
Yup.
Yeah.
Damn, there's a bunch
bro.
of people who are crushing it in you know from New York.
cool
There's
to
a bunch
see.
of people who are really putting on, and it's cool. It's definitely cool. It's cool because there's like a good combination of people that are like kind of, I don't want to say new to the scene, but they're a little bit newer to the whole scene. And then there's some people that have been doing this for a fucking really long time. And
Yeah, man.
it's super sick. Like, and yeah, like you said, the network thing, like, you know, that's everything. Your network is your net worth, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you know, I'm very fortunate to have been around it for a long time. Like I've known Ryan from Doja since before LA, like since back in SAC days, like
Oh, no way.
yeah. No,
Oh,
I've
cool.
known Ryan, like, you know, I've been in the game for, allegedly
what's up.
for a long time.
That's what's up.
And,
Yeah.
you know, I've been around. So like, you know, it's cool.
Yeah,
and
if
like,
you knew Ryan from SAC before LA, yeah, you've been out here doing your thing for a minute.
Yeah.
I know that time period you're talking about.
exactly. And like, you know, like G, like, you know, meeting G, like G's opened so many doors for me. And like,
Oh, he's great.
working with G, like, you know, great dude, fucking, you know, super, like I was saying, like,
Love working with him. He's so easy to work with.
Yeah,
Always solid.
we like the amount of good people I've met in the last few years, like
Yeah.
through this and through the brand has been, you know, unbelievable. The connections and like
Hell
super,
yeah.
super psyched,
That's tight.
you know,
That's tight.
absolutely.
So what do you know that the industry should know, or what you calling bullshit on out there
Oh
in the
man,
cannabis industry?
shit. Like, I think the whole like big debate right now with the white label versus the fucking grower, like owner operator type thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think that we all got to kind of get away from that and just kind of get back to like enjoying, you know, look, like, I think honesty is big. You know, saying that you grew something that you didn't is kind of fucked up. But to some degree, like it, there's just like, there's a point where it matters and there's a point where it doesn't, right? Like look, anything that goes in our packaging was grown by one of us. You know what I mean? And by no means do I ever want to say that this is a me thing, right? Like Marijuantauk is not me.
Okay.
Marijuantauk is way bigger than me. Like, shout out for, you know, first and foremost, shout out all my partners, like, you know, Brian, JT, Dave, Nick, Ryan, fucking, like anyone, you know, that's actually in the garden with us, like, you know, because we have a couple different gardens that like I couldn't possibly be at all of them. So, you know, like this started like by me and my homies that like, you know, it started with me and Brian, and then, you know, a couple other homies were like, oh, like I'm building this garden, like how should I build it, this and that, like what genetics should I run? And then it's like, well, if I'm gonna tell you how to do all this, I'm gonna just tell you, you know, like let's run it up together, let's do this
No
as a
doubt.
team, you know. And it's a team, like it's a group. Like I happen to be, you know, the most out there, you know, with my face and
Yeah,
out there,
certainly the
you know,
face of it, yeah.
you know, but like there's a group of us, and without that team, like we could never do what we've done. And you know, so like I don't know. It's just cool. You know, I'm glad to be in this position. You know, like with the team, and everything.
So shout out to the team.
Yeah, definitely the whole team. But
now we're gonna play a game called Fuck One, Marry One, Kill One. Don't worry, no wifey's in the room. We're talking about weed strains.
Okay.
Not ladies. So, fuck one is the best experience, the best strain, the best smoke you ever had. The married one's your everyday smoke, kind of like the desert island smoke. And the kill one is like these, you hate those terps. We could do away with those forever.
Okay, so easy. We're gonna kill Oreos, right? Like I've been saying this for a long time, and we kind of got fucked and ended up by accidentally growing some Oreos. Like
terrible.
you know, like when you're beginning, and you know, or sometimes if you're just expanding, having clones to fill the garden not always the easiest. So on the East Coast, there's not the most amount of people that have good clean clones.
Yeah, right. I can
So sometimes
imagine.
you're kind of just scrambling. And sometimes people may not even know what they're giving you, or say they're giving you one thing and give you something else. And we ended up with Oreos. And then we somehow mislabeled it or something and ended up growing it a second time. And like, needless to say, like we didn't grow a ton of it. Excuse me. But we grew it. And we didn't put it out, no doubt. Like we didn't put it, I don't even think any of us smoked it. I'm pretty sure we threw it out. But like it looks super pretty, but fuck, man, fuck that strain. Like for real, it brings nothing to the table. I've like had conversations with breeders who are like, oh, like we could breed it for this. Like, no, I don't care.
No.
Fuck that strain. Fuck Oreos. And anything else so that's easy for kill. Marry is kind of difficult. So
It's the hardest one.
That one's like, you know, I'll skip that for right this second, and I'll go to fuck, and I think that no question where it's gonna probably be some kind of Z, you know, whether it's a Z cross or a straight Z. I'll probably say a straight Z just because, you know, I mean, there's probably some Z crosses that are phenomenal, but like the right batch of straight Z is like, it's just undeniable. But I don't think that I could make that the daily. I did it for about a year. I made it the daily, and I got to tell you that the effect just wasn't there, right? And it's not that,
especially
like,
if you're on the daily,
you know, it's not like it's not that it's not doesn't get you high. It's not that it's not good smoke. It's arguably maybe the best smoke, but yeah, I'm gonna say like probably Tahoe OG right now, or maybe like the Trilly Kimber, or the Billy Kimber. You know, I don't know. You know, Bobby actually hooked us up.
Well, hold on. Are you moving to married? Did you just say fuck? Or are we still on fuck?
No. Fuck is definitely Z. You
Z,
know?
okay.
And then Mary would be like the
daily
Tahoe.
driver.
The Tahoe would probably Tahoe or
Cool.
like I said, like maybe like a Trilly Kimber, Billy Kimber type deal.
Okay.
I don't know. You know,
He's not a one answer guy, folks.
yeah, an OG. I'm just gonna say OG. Like I want like a kind of like a piney OG.
Because this matters. The married matters. I need one answer.
Yeah.
Bro.
All right.
Because there's gonna be a contest.
Oh man.
So start tallying now.
Shit.
At 200.
I'm just can I say OG just blanketly, or all right? So I'm just gonna say OG.
Say OG.
Just OG, because like, you know, I'm sure like I'd have to go through a couple to find the one. And I'm like, this is the one. This is the one I'll take forever.
Yeah,
like,
no,
this is
you're
the one.
good. You're all good.
But like OG for sure.
Okay.
And you know, I think, you know, the names get a little confusing because like what I used to get as SFV back in the day, you would probably be like, that's Skywalker, and then someone else will tell you it's Top.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Yeah. So like, you know, it's just like sour, like, you know, and
oh boy,
she's already dead.
She's gone.
So I can't bring her back from the dead.
That was my next question, bro. If there was a strain you could bring back, what would it be?
I mean, sour, no doubt. No doubt. Like, you know, I mean, like, bro, like
the true East Coast head.
You know, I mean, bro, like my you know, I know people who change the course of their family history because of,
bro,
like, they grew
5K
sour.
sours, bro. Come on,
bro. My partner at this warehouse was getting them off for $6,500, and he was like, "Yo, we were happy to just get a pound of light, but I was crushing it four lights, making fucking $6,500 a pound on sours." And
it's unreal, bro.
And he was saying it was like the turnaround was like he would give it to his man, and his man would come back with a shoebox of money that night.
The shoebox off 4 pounds.
Who
the fuck makes a shoebox?
Yo, for real,
bro?
and like, yo, back back then it was, obviously it was different, but yeah. So obviously sour and not even for the monetary reason, just for the simple reason that I miss
the bonus.
it. But yeah, sour for sure.
Okay.
I mean, there's other strains that I feel like are kind of like not around anymore, but nothing
don't
is
fuck
like
around. We want sour.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just tired of also hearing about like someone being like, I got sour back, and then being like, nope.
No.
And like,
if I didn't smell it as I was walking up to you, and if I had to crack a nug,
if you have to tell me that you got sour back and me not be like, yo, who's got sour?
I smell it. Where is it?
Like I smell it. Like, yo, straight up. Like,
out.
It's not real.
Non-existent.
So, yeah.
Let's talk weed etiquette.
Okay.
What's your pet peeve? What grinds your gears? It could be smoking, growing, whatever.
So, I mean, I smoke everything. Like I don't really pass anything other than to my wife. So, I'm a germaphobe. So like that's not, I don't really have to deal with so much of like the common, passing your homie the joint type issues. But, I guess my biggest weed etiquette issue or like pet peeve is people who, ask me for like weed, like something like that they want, or something. I'll give it to them like a friend, basically being like, yo, like let me get some of that the Tahoe that you get. And I'm like, oh yeah, hell yeah, bro. Like here's some Tahoe, and then roll up like a fatty and like not even smoke like a quarter of it and just put it in the ashtray and walk away. I'm like, yo, my man, like the fuck, like
damn,
and it, it's not even like it doesn't happen often. It's just like I have some friends that like don't come from the weed industry, so like they're not real big weed heads, so they'll be like, oh, I want to smoke whatever's like super hot right now and like blah blah blah, and so they will, but they can't even appreciate it. I'm like, bro, like it's there's stuff like it's just rare, it's hard to get, like we don't have that much of it, like
right like, especially out east.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
more scarce.
Like look, like this strawberry fucking the melt that we have, bro, there's like fucking 30 jars, like period, like 30 jars total. So like,
I'm for sure trying that.
Like I'm just like, yo, like I'm just hyped to be able to smoke a jar.
And that shit smells crazy.
Yeah, like
he said he had Roger hyped off that shit.
Yeah,
recently.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
no, that Puffco, that's dope.
That one, but like
he sees a lot of terps.
Yeah, no, he definitely sees a lot of terps, and he was super excited, and so I'm just excited to be able to kind of have some stuff like that. But like, yeah, like if it's like some super limited shit and you're just, kind of trying it just to try it and like not really, I'm like, bro, come on, man. Like,
could have gave you a pre-roll, bro.
Yeah. Like, and honestly, like, it's not even like, even if you lit it and didn't like it, that's cool. Tell me.
Yeah.
But like, tell me, like, what's the feedback? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, what's up? Like, you just lit it and feedback. Just like put it out. You're like, oh yeah, I just didn't want to smoke right now. I'm like, then why'd you ask me for this fucking weed?
Yeah.
That's like, I guess like my pet peeve. Yeah. Like, like
I feel it.
Because like I will give you the, I'm like hella, protective over certain things, but I will give it up, and then I'll be like, yo, you didn't even enjoy that. Like, I would have like just marinated with that. I wouldn't even be driving smoking that. Like I would have just sat in my car like.
Hell yeah, bro.
But
that's how I know you're a smoker, just based off what you just told me.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no, like that first and foremost, that's what it is. Like I smoke weed. I believe in weed. I use it as medicine and recreation. Like it's a big part of my life, and so like that to me, like it's got to be that. You know what I mean?
No
it's got to be enjoyable experience all the way through, because that's why we do this.
Since you love smoking weed so much, if you could smoke with two people, one that's dead, one that's still alive, who would they be?
So, dead, I would probably have to say either my friend Jordan, who passed away when we were young, or like someone super iconic, like I just have some questions for. I don't even know, but probably my friend Jordan, or, probably just my friend Jordan, and then like alive, like immediately I just want to say, like Snoop Dogg. Immediately, like I'm just like, I want to say Snoop Dogg.
That's the default answer.
Like I just like, oh man, I'd love to smoke.
It's not a wrong answer either.
But
it's fucking
like,
my answer.
But like, I feel like I'm gonna make that happen one way or the other.
Yeah, I'm
like, yo, I'm gonna catch him. Like I'm gonna catch him. So like again, like I'd love to smoke weed with somebody who like maybe like could talk to me on a higher level of certain things, like whether it be, you know, I don't even think like government wise. Like I think maybe like, you know, like that dude Neil deGrasse, you know,
Neil deGrasse.
you know what I mean? Because like I feel like I could start picking his brain on some crazy shit, and like he could.
I would smoke with him, bro.
He could tell me some.
Answer.
He could tell me some shit that like, you know, would really, you know, like, and the way he talks and articulates.
I was just like, let's just start us off with outer space. Let's just get weird, right? Because that fool talk about outer space, like how you fucked up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, bro. Like, but you know, I'm just like ask a question that like, you know, I've always, you know, just like some weird outer space thing, or like, yo, like,
tell me why God is real.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, explain this to me.
Explain how the outer space was created. You know what I'm saying? Let's get him started.
Like, oh, what's Einstein's theory of relativity? You know,
yeah, he's dope.
You know, and just so something like that would be super cool. But yeah, I mean the Snoop Dogg thing, I you know, maybe just Snoop.
It's cool. No, it's cool.
You know,
yeah, it's all good, man.
It's one of the
not
two.
a bad answer.
It's one of the two. Like immediately, you're just like, oh, Snoop Dogg every time.
Yeah,
like that.
It's on every stoner's bucket list.
That or you know maybe Chappelle.
Chappelle would be dope.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know, especially like if we could select like years, and not to say that, you know, today's Chappelle ain't good, but like, you know, the Chappelle back when, you know, the Chappelle show was really popping and shit, like, yo, like that, I'd like to smoke with Chappelle then.
No doubt.
You know?
No doubt. That was a cool period.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think that's probably,
those are good answers.
That's probably where I'm at with that.
So before we get up out of here, bro.
Yep.
If you could go back to the young you, the day before you jumped in the game, what advice would you tell you?
Oh man, to enjoy it. Like don't rush. Like don't rush the process, and just enjoy it, and you know, kind of appreciate where it was at, because you know I probably also would tell myself to trap harder when I was younger and the game was better, but you know, like. I think that's probably why I'd say to enjoy it and appreciate the margins and appreciate the risks, because like the risks were different, you know, and it was I lost hair, you know what I mean? I lost my hair, you know, I it was a different risk, and maybe more importantly than anything is like, don't get caught up with the societal pressure of feeling like this isn't a career, right? Because for forever, especially coming from the East Coast, and I'm sure you can attest to this, you're a little older than I, and you come from the East Coast, like there's this always like looming of like thing of like, this isn't a career, you can't do this forever.
Especially out there, bro.
You know, and like something like you're, you know, something along the lines of like you're maybe a bad person for doing it, right? Like you're almost made to feel like maybe, you know, you're not morally sound, and you're like, yo, like that's bullshit. Like that's bullshit.
Especially now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Especially in your state now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, you know, when, you know, like I say, like my mother was a teacher, she did go through the DARE era, right? Like, so like, you know, dealing with like that kind of emotion and just being like a little bit more like, cause I'm sure there was times throughout my hustle where I was like stutter step, cause I'd be like, oh, maybe I should go get a regular job again, or like, you know, whatever. And like second guess the process. And I mean, maybe that was good. So like, I don't want to say not to do that, but like, you know, not to feel like, not to beat myself up over feeling like, you know, this is not what I should be doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like enjoy the moment and like be in it. You know what I mean? Experience it.
Hell yeah.
Cause it's big.
Good shit, my bro.
Absolutely.
Well, before we go, man, is there anything you want to shout out? Anything you want to plug? Where can people find you? Let the people know right here. Shit,
Instagram keeps taking us down. We're Marijuantauk _ right now. That's where we're at. On Twitter, we're just Marijuantauk, I believe. People I want to shout out, definitely, like, you know, the homies from Kilco, they came up here, they show us nothing but love. They always fucking support, give us, you know, help us with genetics, advice, like, you know, from the garden to just life in general. So many other brands too. You know, shout out to all the other brands. I'm gonna draw a blank right now on everyone, and I'm sorry. Or we do an hour of me just shouting out all my homies, because honestly, without like I've reached out to every single person in my contact list at one point and asked a question that, you know, saved everything. So I appreciate you all. I'm sorry for everyone that I'm gonna forget. Definitely shout out Santa Hash, like, you know, definitely the, you know, big homie and fucking helping me take care of like all the hash side of things. Shout out Astor Club. Like they've always been taking care of me. Cookie Party, good vendor. There's you know, Gino, Gotti, fucking, oh man, the list goes on. Like the grow stores, all the grow stores that have helped out, different companies, fucking, I don't know. Fucking Puffco hooking it up, like bunch of people hooking it up, like, you know, Feel Good, Bobby Trilogy, you know, a lot of people really, you know, have shown us nothing but love. So
Good stuff.
I'm super, super fortunate.
Good shit, bro. Well, thank you for coming through, sharing your story.
Absolutely, man.
Look
I
forward to see
appreciate
what
it.
you guys do, man, in the
Absolutely.
future.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. You already know Marijuantauk, good pizza, big NYC vibes. We're going to keep them flowing. Thank you to all my Patreons. Thank you for everybody that subscribed. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. Let us know what you thought about the episode. We'll see y'all soon, man. Peace, love, good pizza. We up out of here.